Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. So today we get to take a look at this 2022 Ford Maverick Lariat. Huge shout out to Mooresville Ford for providing this pickup truck for me today. Check out their website, that link is down in the description. The Maverick that you see behind me is finished off in Area 51, and the Lariat trim level has a starting MSRP right around $28,000. And to start off today's review, let's take a look at what powers this Maverick. There are two different engine options. This Lariat has the 2-liter inline 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. It's paired to the 8-speed automatic transmission and pumps out 250 horsepower and 277 pound-feet of torque. This model here is all-wheel drive, however you can get front-wheel drive. It weighs in right around 3,600 pounds. It'll do 0 to 60 in just under 7 seconds, and it has a fuel capacity of 16.5 gallons. You'll expect to see around 22 miles per gallon in the city and 29 out on the highway. This has a wheelbase of 121.1 inches. Its overall length is 199.7. It has a width of 72.6, a height of 68.7, and its ground clearance measures in at 8.6 inches. As we move on now to the exterior styling for this all-new Ford Maverick, let's start off with the Ford logo front and center. It's a bit smaller than what you would see on the normal Ford trucks, but it has a great design to it with the rest of this front end. Now there's also a trim piece on the upper section and lower section, and that makes its way to the headlight housings on both sides. So it's very cool to see that integration. Now this has LED DRLs and turn signals along with the headlights with that triple beam design for the headlights and the high beams. I think it matches very nicely with the rest of this grille. There's also plenty of cutouts to provide a lot of cooling to that turbocharged engine. And with the Lariat, you get the adaptive cruise control. So that sensor is located right in the middle of the grille. Now for the rest of this front end, the lower section is finished off in plastic. There's even more cutouts to provide more cooling right in the middle and an air dam underneath just to provide some more aerodynamics. And then the hood has some really nice lines running down both sides. Now as we work our way to the side, this has a set of 18-inch wheels with the two-tone design. I think that's a good wheel option for this Maverick. You can see the indentions for the fender flares both in the front and the rear. There's also the Lariat trim badge just behind that, along with having the body colored side mirrors. No sunroof for this model. And hopefully you can tell this is much different than the Ford Ranger, which is a little bit bigger, still a small size truck. This has a unibody construction, so unlike having a cab and a separate bed, everything is together, so just a little bit of a different design. There's more of the plastic trim in the lower side skirt, really nice lines in the lower section of that door as well. So it has a great design to it. Everything flows nicely all the way to the rear, where you'll see the Ford logo right in the middle, along with a backup camera. Maverick is also stamped in the lower section, which is pretty common for pickup trucks today. There's the all-wheel drive badge. And then the rest of this bumper is finished off in plastic. There's also the parking sensors too. And with the towing hitch, this can tow right around 4,000 pounds. Pretty adequate for the smaller size that this is. And the license plate is over on that passenger side. So with the exterior wrapped up for this Ford Maverick, let's take a look at the bed space now. So you'll notice that this entire bed has a spray-in bed liner, so it's going to give you that added protection. The Maverick also has a payload capacity right around 1,500 pounds. So you can use this as a smaller size work truck for some smaller items or smaller jobs. Over on this driver's side, there is a 3-prong outlet, so you can hook up some power tools. There's also channels on both sides where you can place some tie-down hooks. There's even some more just above that. And on this passenger side, if you open this up, a little bit of a storage bin, so you can place some items there if you need to. So it has a good size to it. It's about a 4-foot bed, and then you can add the tailgate when you have that down. So it is a little bit on the smaller side, but that's what you would expect. The tailgate is also very lightweight, so that is easy to close. And so now we can work our way to these back seats, where you can also lock and unlock the Maverick with the back door handle. So I think that's a really nice, convenient feature to have. And for this door panel, you can see the two-tone design. There's some matte black trim on the release handle, a floating design for that grab handle, which I think is a nice look. The window control is just above that. You even have plenty of space for some drinks underneath it. So with that floating design, you could have a taller water bottle than that. It's really convenient for the small size that this is. There's also leather on that armrest, and you'll see more of that grab handle trim color making its way to these two-tone leather seats. Very, very nice color combo against this Area 51. And before we make our way to the interior, you can actually flip up the entire bottom of the seat and lock it into place. So as you can tell, there is a lot of hidden storage space underneath the rear seat, making it very, very usable. You can place items so they won't roll around, and then you can quickly pull on that tab and lower the seat. So that is really nice to see. This is a low truck, so the door sill is really not all that high. And with the front seat a little bit farther back than I would normally have it, I still have plenty of room for my feet and my legs. Right in the middle, you'll see some auxiliaries so you can charge electronics, a little bit of a storage cubby there. And then as far as headroom goes, I'm honestly very impressed with the Maverick having a ton of headroom. You could be taller than me and still fit in the back of this smaller size pickup. So this is pretty practical for adults to be in the back seat. It's not as crammed as you would think for the size of this smaller size pickup. So I really like that attention to detail. Right in the middle is the armrest along with 2 cup holders. This even has an electronic sliding rear glass, so you can open that as needed. There's also speakers in the pillars in the back, which are pretty thin, so you have good visibility around them. And this is just a nice interior for this truck. Now, as we work our way to the front seats, you can also lock and unlock the truck using the keypad, the door handle, or the key fob itself. And the door panel has a similar design and layout to it. This even has the Bang & Olufsen sound system. There's all the window controls, side mirror adjustments, lock and unlock, and a lot more room in that lower section of the door. And then the same design for these seats. Very, very nice design to them. They are automatic, so all those adjustments are down on the side. And it's just as easy to enter the front seats. You actually step over the door sill and down. And then as we move on to the steering wheel, it's finished off in black leather. On this right side, there's voice commands along with Bluetooth and a few controls for the center screen. On the left side is all the cruise and adaptive cruise control settings, along with the assisted steering and volume for the radio. Now let's fire this Maverick up. With my foot on the brake, that button is located down below, and we can bring this to life. And looking at this gauge cluster, on the left side is the tach, along with the engine temperature. Right side is the miles per hour and the fuel level. And then right in the middle, you can see this massive LCD screen where you can go through a lot of information. So currently it's showing the average MPG. You can look at tire pressure. There's a calm screen, so it hides all of that information. You'll notice too, it has a split design to it, so the miles per hour does not change. Now, if I click on menu, we can also scroll down to audio, go into phone, as well as settings, so you can go through all this information. There's even a trailer sway control, so when you have a trailer hooked up, you can have that just to make it a little bit more safer. If we scroll down, there's also the display set up, so you can go through all of these units just depending on what you'd like to see. And if we go all the way back to select screens, you can actually show what you'd like to see on that home screen. So just depending on what you use the most, you can have that easily available and quick to pull up. So not a whole lot of information, but very configurable. You'll see what gear you're in as well in the lower section. And then over on the left side of the steering wheel is all the headlight adjustments. There's also the light for the cargo, so you have the bed light. There's dimmer switches for the gauges, more of that black trim, and some of that brush trim surrounding the air vent, which is a nice touch to see. Now there's a little bit of storage space up in the dash, as well as to the right side of the infotainment system, so you can place some items there if you need to. And then looking at the center infotainment system, this is the home screen where you can see music, the compass, and your phone when you have that paired. And then in the lower section is shortcuts to your audio and phone. You can go into apps, and then there's some settings that you can go into just to configure this as you need to. If I click on home, we are back to here. So again, not a whole lot of information, but it gives you everything that you need. Now, power and volume for the radio is on this left side. Tuning is on the right side. You can also shut that screen off and have this setting here. So just depending on what you'd like to see, there's some other controls for the music and radio as well. Now there's 2 air vents just underneath that, and then all the climate controls are nicely laid out. This even has heated seats along with the heated steering wheel, so you can adjust those as needed. Now on this left side and right side, you can adjust the dual zone for the temperature. You have power, you can sync these. Where you like the air to go is right in the middle. This even has heated side mirrors, so you can use those on those cooler days. And there's auto as well, which you can shut off if you need to. Fan speed is just underneath that, so it's a really nice layout. And then underneath that, there's even more auxiliaries along with a 12 volt. And this is how you can open and close the sliding rear glass. There's also a wireless charging pad. And as you can tell, that trim matches the interior. So that is a great attention to detail. You can also place your phone on this right side. There's some storage just behind that, along with 2 cup holders. And then for the gear selector, with my foot on the brake, I'll just rotate it clockwise once. You'll see the backup camera up here with the guidelines. So that's definitely very helpful. All the way to the right is drive. There's also a low range gear, and then park is all the way back to the left. Now behind that, there's the electronic parking brake, and then we have the engine start stop feature. On the upper left, if I push on this, this is for the different driving modes. So you'll see in the center gauge cluster now, there's tow and haul. We can go into the slippery setting. There's also eco, sport, there's normal, and then we're back to towing and hauling. So it's nice to see all of those. On the upper right, if I push on that, that is for traction control. And then there's the auto hold or the auto braking on that right side. There's a little bit more storage space just behind that. And then if I open up this armrest, a lot more storage. So for the smaller size of this truck, you have an ample amount of room to place items, including the glove box, which has all the room that you need for that information. We'll take another look at this interior. Very nice to see this color. And up in the center, there is a sunglass holder on the back side, which is convenient to have, and the dome lights are on both sides of that. As we get behind the wheel now for this 2022 Ford Maverick Lariat, this is the second Maverick that I've been able to drive. The previous Maverick was the XLT, so it was a little bit different as far as technology features go, even some of the interior options. So for this Lariat, I'm actually very impressed with not only the fact that it has the adaptive cruise, we have this two-tone interior that also has a hint of blue to it. I really didn't notice that until I was actually in the back seat and kind of looking at it, but it's a very, very nicely spec'd interior for this higher trim level for the Maverick. We also have the different driving modes. So let's pop it into the sport mode. Since we don't have anything to tow, we can leave it in sport mode. We'll give it a little bit of gas here. And it's what you'd expect for a 2-liter turbo. It doesn't have a crazy amount of horsepower, but it'll get up and move. And the fact that this engine can tow 4,000 pounds behind this, that's a pretty good sized trailer for a smaller vehicle like this. Obviously, it's nothing compared to some of the Super Duty models that Ford offers, as well as some other larger trucks, but I think it's pretty adequate. I've seen a few of these out on the road, and it's a cool little truck. If you need the bed space, which also has an app that you can scan, or a QR code that you can scan, so you can actually look up different accessories you can get for your bed. Ford actually has a whole website that you can go through. Just if you're unfamiliar with a truck, this might be somebody's first pickup truck, so you have some helpful information there. And I really like, for the size of this, it doesn't feel as small as it looks from the outside. So you can have a lot on the interior. You can use that bed to put in whatever items you have. This is a good city pickup truck for moving items and smaller things like that. You're really not going to be using this to haul a lot of items. You could throw dirt bikes in the back, you know, a lawnmower, something like that. Maybe have a small lawn service business, or, you know, something along those lines. Or you're putting in mountain bikes, anything like that, where you can't use an SUV because the items are too large, and you want space like that where you're not throwing in dirty items for the interior. So I think it's a perfectly made pickup truck for that audience and what they're going to be using this Ford Maverick for. So I think it's pretty cool. And as far as driving it, it's just like what you would expect. It's very comfortable and quiet. There's no wind noise or road noise, even cars passing. It's going to provide you with a comfortable ride. So for a pickup truck, being the unibody construction, it's a little bit different than other pickup trucks that have the cab and the bed separated, like I mentioned earlier. So it's going to drive very, very smooth. And so as we switch over to the POV angle, you can see what it's like to be behind the wheel for this all new Ford Maverick. And as we come up to this left turn, pickup trucks don't really handle that well in general going around turns. But this is a low vehicle, low center of gravity, and it took that turn, no issues. Now larger trucks, obviously a little bit different. They're much heavier, a little bit higher off the ground. So this just rides and drives as you would expect for almost an SUV type of vehicle. So just think of it as an SUV with a bed attached to the back. And it's going to ride just like you would expect if you're used to an SUV. So if this is your first pickup truck, you're really not sacrificing anything to get that bed space if that's something that you truly need and want to have. But this is very, very nice to drive. Really no blind spots. It's a small truck, so it's going to be easy to drive around parking lot situations, parking. You don't have to worry about, oh, I'm getting into a pickup truck, where am I going to park it, and things like that, because it's really not all that big or much longer compared to an SUV. But I think that's going to wrap it up for this 2022 Ford Maverick Lariat. Once again, huge shout out to Mooresville Ford for providing this smaller size yet fun truck to drive. Definitely check them out. Their website is down in the description. And if you enjoyed today's video, give it a huge thumbs up and consider smashing that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our daily uploads. I will see you all in the next video.